Good afternoon and welcome back. Today we are going to start where we usually start with our upper air charts. Oh, hiccups too, apparently. Sorry about that. Let's continue. So we do have a low pressure system up here in Canada with, of course, an associated trough feature. And that trough feature is actually going to have a pretty solid jet associated with it. Now, for the most part, at least in relation to the jet, we are not really in any favorable areas for some large-scale lift or forcing for ascent. So I'm not immediately thinking about precipitation. However, the existence of this low loft means that if we look lower down, yes, actually, let's go further down. Let's go all the way to the surface. Yes, we do have a low pressure system at the surface associated with this, and there is going to be a cold front behind that. So we are going to have a cold front feature moving through this afternoon into this evening. And so there could be some precipitation associated with that. So let's zoom in and let's look at what kind of precipitation we could be seeing. So as we move through, this right here is about 1 p.m., which is in about 4 minutes. Nothing really going on, at least not on here, but it also isn't really great at picking up on some of the lower resolution details, which I will show you in just a minute. But it does show some snow and also a mix of rain and snow kind of progressing in portions of western Michigan. Maybe that ends up reaching across to our area, maybe it doesn't. But other than that, very, very calm, except for as we head into Monday morning, there is a little bit of snow in the Wisconsin area that then moves into northern Michigan. That is something we're going to look into a little bit deeper in just a moment. Before we look into that, though, we should take a look at our live radar. So we do have some of that rain-snow mix off to our west already that is kind of approaching the area, although it does seem like it may be struggling in the last couple of frames to really make it all the way in. Of course, not up further north, but maybe we get some precipitation from this, maybe we don't. But regardless, we are not expecting any significant accumulations of either snow or rain. Now, let me actually take a step back and go back to this upper atmosphere chart, because I forgot to show what happens after that trough moves through. So after that trough moves through, we actually end up in a pretty steady flow here. It is a northwest flow regime on Sunday. And then as we head into Monday morning, it kind of shifts a little bit more westerly, but point is that it is a pretty steady, pretty straight, steady pattern here. So odds are it is going to be pretty calm, and as we saw in the precipitation outlook, that was mostly the case. Although we did see that snow show up in Wisconsin and into northern Michigan as we headed into Monday morning, which you might not expect just looking at this initially. I do have some suspicions as to, what could be leading to that, however. So let's jump down a little bit lower into the atmosphere. This is not quite the surface, but it's lower than the previous chart. This is that current low pressure system that we saw at the surface earlier that moves through, brings our cold front and potentially some precipitation. But as we move into Sunday night and into Monday morning, we see some increased wind speeds, kind of almost in a north-south direction. It has a little bit of a, east-west component, but this is the low-level jet. And sometimes you can get some precipitation or convection to develop at the tip of this jet. And that would make sense as it does, kind of protrude into the Wisconsin area. And also behind it, you can see there is kind of a small trough-like feature, so that could also potentially be aiding in some lift. It might be why we're ultimately getting some precipitation in that region, despite conditions at the upper levels not necessarily looking super favorable for it. Although, part of this could be, if we go back to the upper level, sorry, we keep jumping back and forth, is the westerly flow over the mountains. And sometimes that can actually lead to the development of a low pressure system at the surface. and that can, as time goes on, affect us, and sometimes it doesn't. So that is always something you have to look out for when you see westerly flow over the mountains here, and something we will continue to watch as long as the westerly flow continues to persist. Now, finally, let's zoom back in and just talk about some of the more everyday boring things, like temperature. As we head through the day today, the high temperatures are probably going to end up around the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s. And as that cold front comes in overnight and into tomorrow morning, it looks like the low temperatures are going to be below 20, probably going to be closer to the mid-teens, 15, 16 area. And then as we head into the afternoon hours, it really will not warm up that much. It's not expected to warm up that much, with temperatures likely in the lower, maybe mid-20s. And then as we head into tomorrow night and into Monday morning, things are actually going to be pretty stable, maybe even warming slightly as we head into Monday morning, with temperatures perhaps hanging around, again, the mid-20s. Now let's take a look at wind. So again, this is the hourly maximum wind. So these winds are probably going to be stronger than what we are expecting, but it could give a good idea for really the worst case scenario, and excuse me, gives a better idea than, well, just looking at wind gusts. So we may see winds around the 15 to 20 mile per hour range through the day today, and even into a good chunk of the overnight hours. Yeah, pretty much overnight too, yeah. And then tomorrow, especially tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, it is going to get pretty calm. And looks like it should remain mostly calm even into Monday morning. So now let's take a look at those wind gusts just to see exactly, what's the worst case for the strongest wind gusts we could see. And this is an ensemble mean. So this is probably going to be more accurate to as the type of wind gusts we'll be seeing rather than being on the high end. So today, maybe we see some gusts up to 40, 45 miles per hour. And tonight, even, we're still looking into that 30 to 40 mile per hour range. But after that, winds largely calm down until Monday morning. Maybe a little bit more starts to build in. We're still only looking at gusts of 15 to 20 miles per hour at worst, though. So overall, we do see a little brief period of wind, or brief calm period of wind coming in tomorrow. And I think, for the most part, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope I see you tomorrow.